Ready? Everybody's ready? Okay. Good evening, everyone. We're going to start off the evening with the public hearing. Before I get that started, the Village of Anmore would like to open our meeting by recognizing the many Indigenous peoples of our areas, including the following First Nations, with communities that are located in the region that we now know as Metro Vancouver. They would be the Musqueam, Squamish, Tsleil-Waututh, and Coquitlam. Further, we'd like to honor the important place in history occupied by the many tutorial keepers of these lands and waters around us since time immemorial. Now I'll get into the public hearing. So we're going to start off with the public hearing. Let me get my paperwork here. Good evening, and thank you all. I'd like to call the public hearing to order. And with that, I'll say that good evening. Thank you all for coming out tonight for the public hearing on the proposed amendments to the Village of Anmore zoning bylaw. This hearing is being held under the authority of Section 464 of the Local Government Act. Council for the Village of Anmore has given first and second readings to the zoning bylaw amendment bylaw number 687-2024 and directed that this public hearing be held. I will now ask Michelle to confirm that the public hearing notices have been provided as dictated.
I can confirm that the notice was provided pursuant to the Local Government Act and our public notice bylaw, and that one submission was received for the public hearing for zoning bylaw amendment bylaw number 687-2024, and that written submission has been provided to council and posted on the village website.
Okay. Staff will present a summary of the proposed bylaw, and following the summary, the floor will be open to anyone in attendance that wishes to present his or her views on the proposed bylaw. Please note that this is not a question and answer period, and it is not an opportunity to debate the merits of the proposed bylaw with council, staff, or others in attendance. We want to ensure that all attendees who wish to speak tonight are provided the opportunity to do so. If you wish to provide comments, please come to the podium when invited to do so and begin your presentation by clearly stating your name and address for the official record. A 3-minute time limit will apply to each speaker, and the second opportunity will be provided after everyone has been given the chance to provide comments for the first time. Before the public hearing concludes, I will make a call for speakers 3 times before concluding the public hearing. Once the public hearing is concluded, the Local Government Act requires that Council not accept any further input from the public related to the proposed amendment bylaw prior to consideration for the next reading of the bylaw. I will now ask Mr. Joseph, our planner, to present the zoning bylaw amendment.
Thank you, Worship. So generally, the bylaw amendment in front of us today is in relation to all zones within the municipality in relation to secondary suites, coach houses or carriageway houses they've been referred to previously, and principal dwelling units. Overall, it is to provide greater opportunity within the municipality to increase the coach house allowance and secondary suites, and also to provide clarity over definitions within the zoning bylaw. That's it.
Good. Okay, I'll open it up for anybody. We do have a written one. Does that get read out or just posted? Okay. Anybody wanting to speak to the bylaw number 687-2024? This is your opportunity to come up and speak. This was regarding coach houses, suites. Sorry? No? I will open it up then for a second time. Anybody wanting to speak regarding bylaw number 687-2024? And finally, a third time. Anybody wanting to speak regarding bylaw number 687-2024? Therefore, I deem the public hearing to be closed. Could I get someone to, a motion to close the public hearing? Moved, seconded. All those in favor? Carried unanimously. Thank you. We'll now move on to our regular council meeting. Again, I'll start off with the Village of Anmore. Would like to open our meeting by recognizing the many Indigenous peoples of our area, including the following First Nations, with communities that are located in the region that we now know as Metro Vancouver. It would be the Musqueam, Squamish, Tsleil-Waututh, and Coquitlam. Further, we'd like to honor the important place in history occupied by the many tutorial keepers of these lands and waters around us since time immemorial. Could I get someone to approve the agenda? Moved, seconded. Any discussion? See none? All those in favor? Opposed? Carried unanimously. Public input. To encourage civic engagement, council, matters raised here are for council's consideration and should be constructively focused on agenda items only.
Excuse me, Mayor McEwen, I'm not sure whether council wants to consider adding the addendum that was circulated today and approve the agenda as amended,
Oh.
or if council just wishes to move forward with the agenda as originally published.
Well, it's been moved. We can put it into other business at the end, can we not? No?
No, according to our procedure bylaw, it has to be added as an addendum. That would be at the beginning of the meeting.
Okay. It wasn't, I didn't look at the addendum one. I'm just looking at my own one, and it didn't have anything
I
there.
have an alternate
Okay.
motion if you would like to hear it.
So would we have to rescind then so could I get a motion then to rescind the approval of the agenda? Moved, seconded. Any discussion? See none, all those in favor? Opposed, carried. Go ahead, Ms. Shaw.
Thank you. That the agenda be approved as amended to include the addition of item 11F under new business, Pinnacle Ridge rezoning application, bylaw number 699-2024.
Okay, could I get someone to move that? Alternate, moved, seconded. Any discussion? Open up for discussion. Councillor Richardson.
I haven't seen it. What is it?
I just saw it here.
Seen it either.
Okay.
I didn't see it attached to my
No,
package here.
it wasn't on my package either.
Oh, thank you. Ah, okay.
I never saw it either. Okay. Do you have any questions?
Should we potentially tell the audience what it is? Because they should know the agenda too, or do they have the revised agenda?
It was out here. Does anyone on council
Okay. Okay, I'll just give council a minute to read. Some haven't read it in that quickly, and then we'll, if we can just, I'm just going to read through that. Okay. Any other, it's been moved and seconded. Any other discussions? No? I'll call the question. All those in favor of the amended agenda? Move. All carried unanimously. Thank you. Okay, that'll be 11F. Okay, so public input. Matters raised here are for council's consideration and should be constructively focused on agenda items only. Please limit comments to a 2-minute and save questions for question period later in the meeting. Anybody like to come forward in public input? And if you could state your name and address, please. I just want to make sure, can everybody hear all right back there? No? Okay.
Hello? Oh, there that goes.
There we go. There we go.
No worries.
Okay.
Start again. Tim Laidler, 2185 East Road, speaking on the agenda items for the previous council minutes regarding the infill development policy for properties that are affected, they're a third of an acre, as I spoke to last time. I know there was a motion passed for council to make a report back. I was under the impression that that report was going to be made tonight, but I don't see it on the agenda, and I just wanted to come forward and make sure that item didn't get missed and see what the process would be going forward, at least on amending the bylaw to help fix the situation for the residents affected by it.
Any questions? No? Do you know, Chris, do you know what Mr. Boyd?
Sorry, through the mayor, did you want us to respond to questions during input period or question period?
No, I just saw, I thought Chris, okay, yeah. Any questions from council? Okay. Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
I guess you could come back at public question period then and ask any questions pertaining to it, okay? Okay, any other public input? Okay, see none, we'll move on to adoption of the minutes of the regular council meeting held on November 5th, 2024. Could I get someone to move the recommendation? Seconded. Any discussion? All those in favor? Opposed? Carried unanimously. Is there any business arising from those minutes? Councillor Richardson.
Okay, so I had a few residents come to me about the Ugly Sweater event, and specifically that the Ugly Sweater event is no longer a charity, it's a private enterprise. And then they quoted the Community Charter Section 25(1)B, which a municipality is not allowed to waive fees for private enterprises. So we waive the fee for Spirit Park. And we are giving some support and stuff. Now, I'm fine with the support because we can argue it's for the safety and benefit of the residents of Anmore, but you know, it's specifically rejected in the community charter. So I don't know what to do about it, but I would like somebody to look at it. So I would move that we review who they are. Is it a private enterprise or a charity? And are we violating the community charter by waiving the fees for Spirit Park?
Michelle, do you have any answers to this?
No, I don't, but if there is a seconder for that motion, then council could discuss that and vote on it.
Okay. Anybody, is it a motion that you're putting forward? Anybody second it? I'll second it. Yep. Councillor Weberink. Okay. Well, now, Ms. Elric, do you know much of?
Sorry, I don't have that section of the community charter in front of me this evening, but certainly if council wants to pass that motion, then staff would look into it. But unfortunately, we aren't prepared to answer that this evening.
Okay. So the motion is just simply to refer it to staff and get a report back. Okay. And I think we have a council meeting scheduled for December 3rd, but we'd probably maybe have to convene before that if you came back in regards to things, because I'm sure there's money being spent right now in regards to setup and the organization.
So staff could report back to council at the next council meeting, or circulate reply and include it in the agenda, or if council wishes to have a special council meeting to get a reply, then that can be arranged as well.
Okay. Councillor Cryer.
Okay, can you say what you said again about the organization, that it's not a charity, it's a business?
My understanding, if you look it up, it's Ugly Enterprises or something they're putting on the event, and Ugly Enterprises is a for-profit company, registered as a for-profit company, and the community charter explicitly says we cannot waive fees for for-profit enterprises.
So the one item you have issue with is the park rental?
We have
Is that it?
Yeah.
No, I just yes or no. I don't want to
I
argue.
don't have an issue per se,
Yeah,
other
okay.
than we didn't follow the law.
Okay. Well,
I'm just, the floor right now
I'll
is
just
Councillor
say
Cryer.
that the event is on December 7th, I believe. So we can't wait until December 3rd.
No.
They're registering people, I'm sure, and doing everything. So it's not something that we can wait until the next council meeting. And I'm not familiar with the charter as well on that point, but I do know that they give thousands of dollars to a charity, but your point is that it is a for-profit. It's not a not-for-profit? It's a for-profit?
It's registered, I believe, as a for-profit, and it's an enterprise to build brand and such things, and that's one event of their brand, and they sell sweaters and all sorts of other things on that brand. So I don't know all the details. It
Okay.
was just raised to me, and I'm trying to wonder if,
Right.
As I said, I'm happy to support them with like staff doing things, and you can argue it's for the benefit of the residents, traffic control and stuff like that. But if we're actually violating the charter, we probably shouldn't do that.
Well, respectfully, should this not have been brought to staff's attention, maybe in an email the day after, or whenever it was
should have,
realized?
but I only got notice like an hour ago.
Wow, okay, they were working on that for you, weren't they? That's great. I don't know what to say.
Okay. Councillor Webering.
Sorry, just to give a little bit of context to the event, I've been to it a few times, and I don't know how it started, but I know one of the organizers, Jordan Birch, has said to me several times he's never made a dime off this. It is a community event, and my understanding is that any profit that is made is donated to an organization or a charity.
Good. I've got Ms. Elrick maybe has some clarity here.
Thank you, through the chair. So just for clarity, it wouldn't be as simple as looking up that section of the community charter. I believe Councillor Richardson is referring to the status of the actual organization, which is also something that I would need to seek clarity for and documentation from the Ugly Sweater. In terms of the fee waived for the Spirit Park rental, the fee is $100 that was waived.
Councillor Trowbridge, sorry.
It's only been 10 years, I get it. I just looked up the Ugly Sweater Dash, and it says a not-for-profit organization on it.
That's my understanding.
That's what it's always been. Yeah.
But it's the registration of an actuality. So, like, I'm okay. I'm just saying it was raised to me, so I raised it.
So we've got a motion on the table, which has been moved and seconded, which is to ask staff to follow up in regarding the, I guess the non-for-profit or charity status of the the Ugly Sweater Dash, or designation, I guess the official designation. So I guess I'll call those questions, and the question is literally, do you want this to be referred back to staff to find some more, to come back with some more information? So it's been moved in second, so I'll call the question. All those in favor? Opposed?
Too worried about it.
It fails, so we'll just move on as is.
No.
Any other
There's the guy
business
right there.
arising from the minutes? I just had the one which was regarding the question that that Laidler, Tim Jr. Came up with, and I'm going to ask Chris, how big of a process is this just to amend a bylaw?
So it would be a zoning bylaw amendment. So the same procedure as we just walked through for the coach house.
So would it be in the same vein as when we allowed another subdivision basement suites?
Yes, it's similar as in we have to go through a zoning bylaw amendment, so which would mean with the staff would bring the requested report forward to council with the analysis of the CD zones against infill and the FAR, and then for council to make a recommendation that staff bring forward by zoning bylaw amendment that would come forward back to you at a subsequent meeting, which would receive first and second reading, and then from there we would look at a public hearing again because it affects the whole municipality in that area, and then another subsequent meeting at that, just like we did tonight. After that public hearing, you could then provide third and fourth reading to a zoning bylaw amendment.
So just to be defined, is that something that could happen by December 3rd, the initial report?
Yeah, I could bring the initial report forward for December 3rd if requested.
Perfect. Good. Thank you. Any other business arising? No? See none? Okay, we'll move on to our consent agenda. Would anybody like to remove anything from the consent agenda? Yes.
D.
Sorry?
D.
D, okay. Anything else? D, coach houses. I think most of us had that coming, yeah. Anything else on the consent agenda? Then could I get someone to move the consent agenda excluding item 7D?
So
Moved, seconded. Any further discussion? See none, all those in favor? Opposed, carried unanimously. Now move on to D, zoning bylaw amendment, coach house. What I'll do is we'll get the recommendation on the floor and then we can debate it. So could I get someone to move the recommendation?
Moved.
Moved, seconded, open for discussion. Councillor Richardson.
My concern, which was brought up before the meeting, is there's a few typos in there. So if we pass this, do we pass the typos? And then, so theoretically, somebody could apply, build, not build, but get their permits potentially on the change in those typos? How would that actually work? I just want to make sure we don't pass something inadvertently.
Yeah, through the chair. So the typos are minor in nature, so wouldn't, in my opinion, affect an application right now. It just provides a little bit more clarity between if you already have a coach house, it means you could only have one accessory building as well as in those areas. So they're still written within the bylaw, so we could still refer to them. It just doesn't explicitly say when it says 2 in one of the tables, and then it should have a bracket C after it. The C is actually still in the bylaw, and you can still read it that way. So we, as staff, would still interpret it that way, and we have to come back, as requested previously, about a amendment to the basement allowance and the breezeway piece that we would bring back. When we bring those back, we would bring back those amendments with those typos fixed as well.
And the lot coverage?
I think that's more of a debate for council tonight, because that was passed as first and second. It wasn't, staff did not change that bylaw to post it to the website.
Okay,
It would have been in the first reading and the second reading that was passed.
So I'll bring up that point. In the new bylaw, the lot coverage for RS1 now says 0.25. 0.25 used to be the floor area ratio, and I do recall it being mentioned when we either had it in camera or in committee of the whole or in one of the other council meetings where it's supposed to be 0.2, and we reference back to the old bylaw and it's 0.2, and I'm dead set against raising it to 0.25. Like, the floor area ratio is 0.25, but I don't want the lot coverage to be 0.25.
Any other, I've got a list of things as well that I've some concerns with as well, so I'm just going to go through the, I'll speak last. Anybody else? Councillor?
For me.
No, you're
I'm good.
Okay, I just, Mr. Boyd, I just have a few things, and we may need to separate some of this, and that's going to be a bit of a challenge, because on page 19, 9.1.3, I won't be able to support the maximum number of accessory buildings and structure, 2 of them at almost 2,000 square feet, if that's what that infers.
Isn't it for both? Combined.
Yeah, yeah.
Sorry,
Yeah.
maybe was that a question?
Yeah, it says accessory buildings and structures, maximum number is 2, with a maximum floor area of 2,000 square feet.
Combined.
Pardon me?
Combined.
Combined. Now, is that on a 1 acre or just on a 1 acre?
That would be 1 acre on this particular zone.
So anything below that isn't? It wouldn't be that size?
It's different sizes for different zones.
Okay. I am in favor of the 0.25 FAR, just, and I noticed in here quite often it's kind of conveyed as 0.20, like it kind of talks against it on some occasions. The other thing that I wanted, like on page 9.14-3, it shows a 0.20. Is this what the existing is?
Sorry, can you repeat that?
9.14.3.
Oh, sorry. Oh, right, sorry. And what was this, the existing? I
Is
believe
it the existing of 0.20?
Yeah.
Okay, so and then an RS1 is going to go to 0.25.
Just for clarity, Mayor McEwen, 19.14.2 is actually a different zone compared to RS1.
No, 9.14.3 is the one I was looking at.
Yeah. So sorry, I don't have the bylaw open. That's probably a CD. If I had to guess off the top of my head, that might be CD 5. That's in relation to.
With a 0.20 FAR, I didn't think we
Correct.
had one.
Yeah, we have 4 CD zones, I believe, off the top of my head, which are
6 of them actually, 6 total.
No. So I believe there's 4 or 5 existing CD zones, which actually are 0.2
Okay.
FAR.
Okay.
I think that
Okay,
one is the
okay.
old Alpine.
Okay.
Yeah,
Um,
Plumper, yeah.
And then I just wanted to reiterate, you know, the correspondence received, I do agree with the principle of it, which is the fact of having the challenge of having a basement suite in a house as well as a carriage house. But with Bill 44, they've basically dictated that every house in the province is allowed to have a suite, and we have no control over that. The challenge I have is that we have, you know, with septic systems, that could be problematic if people don't do an approved basement, put approved basement in, and then they would have to change the engineering to be able to facilitate an extra suite. So those are the challenges, and that's why, you know, we now have a bylaw person who's driving around, because again, the capacity issue, which is based on the amount of bedrooms. So when you add more bedrooms, you need a bigger capacity. The other thing that's of great challenge is that if every house is allowed to have a suite, and then we have carriage houses, to have one or the other, it's almost impossible to be able to basically monitor and be able to regulate. So, you know, as much as I do agree, I'm hoping that as we move forward, the septic systems will be built with a capacity issue to be able to facilitate both of this. You know, because the sad part is, theoretically, with the size of a coach house on a 1 acre of close to 2,000 square feet, another basement suite of 2,000 square feet, a principal residence of 6,000 square feet, you could theoretically have 10 to 12 people living on that one parcel of land. Theoretically. So anyway, those were just a couple of my comments. Any other comments or, oh, now I have,
Okay.
Councillor Weber.
Well, I'm just going to say, I think any house that's 10,000 square feet, we always have to be prepared for the fact that some family could buy that with multiple generations moving into that house. So square footage, and I think it's unusual that Anmore has all these large houses that, and we don't have any, you know, big families like that. It's probably coming. So also with regards to the septic, if you're going to put in a basement suite, yeah, we have to hope that they're going to get a permit for that. I mean, I wouldn't move into an illegal basement suite. I wouldn't move my family into an illegal basement suite. I would want to know that it's built to code. I would want to know that it's safe. And I know when I built an addition to my house, one of the first things that I had to produce was a septic letter, so that a septic engineer had reviewed my system and it was going to be compliant. I think it's very hard to try and write bylaws for the lawbreakers. The lawbreakers are going to break the law, and they're going to sneak basement suites in and nobody's going to know about it. But at the same time, if their septic boils over, the neighbors will know, the people that live there will know, everybody will know, and it will get dealt with. So I understand your concern.
We hope it'll
Mayor
get dealt
McEwen.
with.
Yeah, I know, but I think to put this into the bylaw to prevent things like that, I just don't know if that makes a lot of sense.
Good. Councillor Richardson.
Okay, so I'm just going to do a point of clarification. So I was specifically talking about 9.1.5, maximum partial coverage, which is not floor area ratio. So traditionally, and it's still in the bylaw, RS1 lot coverage is 0.2 and floor area ratio is 0.25. So it says you can build a couple stories and you can get a bigger house. But I'm reluctant, based on climate change, increased rainfall, taking up any more land if we don't have to, that will take away permeable systems and other ways to absorb water. So I think the 0.2 is big enough for anybody to build their 10,000 or 12,000 square foot house. And I don't think we have to sprawl them out more. So I'm really against the 0.25 or the 25% for parcel coverage. I'm fine with it for floor area ratio and everything on as it is in the bylaw. I'm just talking about lot coverage.
Good. Any other questions, comments? I'll call the question. All those in favor? Opposed? Councillor Richardson's opposed. Carries. Thank you. Okay, we'll now move on to new business. Council appointment, business license inspector report dated November 19th, 2024 from our Chief Administrative Officer, which is attached. Ms. Elrick, and then I'll get the recommendation on. Just if you could give us some background, please.
Thank you. The recommendation this evening is that Sean Cormier be appointed as license inspector for the Village of Anmore, and I'm happy to answer any questions related to the report if Council has them.
So could I get someone to move the recommendation? Moved, seconded. Any discussion? See none? All those in favor? Opposed? Carried unanimously. Thank you. We'll now move on to 11B, 2965A Sunnyside Road Development Variance Permit 2024-02. Memo dated November the 15th from Manager of Development Services attached. Could I get someone to move the recommendation, and I'll refer it over to Mr. Boyd. Moved, seconded, seconded. Mr. Boyd, do you want to provide a few comments?
Yeah, this is just a brief overview. A previous council meeting, council provided the support for staff to post a development variance permits to affected properties. We completed that process, and so we're here tonight to get the final approval of the development variance permit for 2965A Sunnyside Road.
Good. I'll open up. It's been moved. Any other comments? I just had one for Mr. Joseph. So on your report, on page, it says page 2 of your report, but page 33 of the agenda, it shows that the discussion in number 5, it says that the subject property was issued a PLR review in December of 2009. However, the subdivision was not achieved and the PLR elapsed. So that was in 2009. Then it says, go to heading number 7. It says the applicant tried to restart the process in 2016, but it appears the process did not proceed to a PLR. And my question is, why was that?
It seems to be unclear. I went through previous correspondence with the old CAO. I was not involved at the time. There was correspondence back and forth about starting up the PLR, and for whatever reason, the PLR did not move forward. They requested one. I really don't know what happened between the request and it not being issued, but it didn't seem to move forward.
So we have no data as to
Not
why.
that I could see within our records.
Okay. Okay, good. Okay, I'll call the question then. All those in favor? Opposed? Carried unanimously. Thank you. On to 11C, award of the EDMA Indigenous Engagement Requirements Contract. Report dated November 15th, 2024, our Manager of Corporate Services attached. Could I get Michelle?
The recommendation is that council approve the award of the contract for implementation of the EDMA Indigenous Engagement Requirements for a maximum contract price of $40,000 to KPMG. So on September 10th, 2024, council directed staff to engage a consultant to meet the objectives of the funding program to meet the Indigenous engagement requirements in the new Act. So staff issued the RFP. 4 proposals were received and evaluated, and staff is recommending that the contract be awarded to KPMG.
Good. Okay, could I get someone to move the recommendation? Moved and seconded. Open for discussion. Councilor Webber.
This is paid for by grant, correct?
Is 100% paid for by a grant, and it is required by legislation.
That answers that. I'll call the question. All those in favor? Opposed? Carried unanimously. Thank you. We have, now we're on to 11D, the Interim Housing Needs Report, report dated November 15th, 2024, from our planners attached. Mr. Joseph.
Thanks, Mayor Buin. Tonight I'll just be going over a bit of background on the new Housing Needs Report legislation requirements, as well as going over the interim housing needs requirements, which we're required to conduct, including the new criteria and findings, and also go over the next steps to satisfy the legislative requirements for the Housing Needs Report. So in 2019, the provincial government legislated that...
Josh, can you pull the mic a little
Can you hear
closer?
more?
We can't hear you.
In 2019, the provincial government legislated that the local government must complete a housing needs report every 5 years to address gaps in housing supply. Anmore's first housing needs report was completed in 2021, identifying key gaps in housing availability and types for our community. So in 2023, Bill 44 included updates to the Local Government Act, including affecting the housing needs report requirements, including new timelines and criteria to determine housing needs. So local governments are now required to prepare an interim housing needs report by January 1st, 2025, using new housing needs report methods to identify 5-year and 20-year housing needs within the community. So staff have prepared the Anmore's 2024 interim housing needs report, which can be viewed in attachment 1 on the agenda, following the new H&R method, which is consistent with the housing needs report method technical guidance prescribed by the Ministry of Housing, which you can see in attachment 2. So the new interim housing needs report requires additional information, including the number of housing units required to meet the current and anticipated need for the next 5 and 20 years, a statement about the need for housing in close proximity to transportation infrastructure that supports walking, bicycling, public transit, and other alternative forms of transportation, and a description of the actions taken by the local government since receiving the most recent housing needs report to reduce housing needs. So these requirements are addressed in the interim housing needs report. The updated housing needs report method now includes 6 key components to calculate total housing needs for the next 5 and 20 years. So these components are supply of units to reduce extreme core housing. That's households that fall below a threshold for adequacy, affordability, and suitability, and that would have to pay over 50% of their income for alternative suitable housing. Supply of units to reduce homelessness. This is based on regional data and the village's share of regional population. Supply of units to address suppressed household formation. That's new households that would have been formed but are not due to lack of attainable options. And supply of units needed to meet household growth over the next 5 or 20 years, calculated through regional and local projections. Also, supply of units needed to meet at least 3% vacancy rate. Provincial vacancy rate was applied. And meeting local demand, so a demand buffer beyond the minimum housing requirements were also applied. So the housing needs for Anmore have been calculated using the H&R method and found the following. For the next 5 years, Anmore is estimated to need 215 housing units, or about 43 units per year. And then for 20 years, the estimated housing need is 756 units, or roughly 39 units per year. So a little bit of next steps for compliance. In accordance with Division 22 of the Local Government Act, the interim housing needs report must be received by council and publicly posted on the village website before January 1st, 2025. And by December 31st, 2025, the village must update its official community plan and zoning bylaw to accommodate the housing units identified in the next 20 years as per the interim housing needs report. Following that, a regular housing needs report will be required by December 31st, 2028, which will supersede the interim housing needs report. That's about it, so thank you. Happy to answer questions.
Let's get the recommendation. Recommendations that council receive the Village of Anmore interim housing needs report dated November 2024 for information, and that council directs staff to publicly post the Village of Anmore interim housing needs report dated November 2024 on the Village of Anmore website for viewing. Could I get someone to move that? Moved. Second, to open up for discussion. Councillor Richardson.
Okay, so I went through it. I'm impressed that you put all the numbers in because it's an onerous, ugly-looking thing. My concern is, I understand it's a provincial requirement, and it's a provincial requirement that goes in your OCP, but it's also non-binding. Unfortunately, there's some aspect that you now have to adjust your potential growth in zoning to allow this prescribed thing, which makes no differentiation whether you're Metro Vancouver, Burnaby, or whatever. And to me, it's very problematic. And so you look at what Metro Vancouver's promoting, which is about 51% growth. And if our housing thing says 95% growth over the next 16 years, it's way out of touch with what Metro Vancouver's doing. And just for perspective, like, you kind of go how Metro Vancouver works. Like, so they expect Coquitlam to grow by 60%, Port Moody 40%, Anmore by 34%, and Belcarra for 11%, which means they've looked around to see available building space, and Belcarra really has none, right? So 11% growth seems to make some sense, but it's completely out of touch. I also looked up North Vancouver, and they say it's completely out of touch. So I'm concerned that there's no feedback or pushback to the province that this doesn't really have any grounds in reality, and it's going to go into our OCP and govern what we do. And that's a concern to me, and I don't think there's anything you can do about it, but it doesn't make sense, and I don't like things that don't make sense. And so I'm struggling with it, and I think we have to receive it, and we have to stick it in there because it's the frickin' law, but it doesn't make any sense.
I have a couple of questions on it, just for clarity. So, it doesn't make a lot of sense. Page 5, and of your report, 56 in our agenda. And it says Anmore in 2021. So there's 675 owners, 65 renters. This makes no sense to me. This is not accurate. There's almost 950 folios in Anmore currently, which means homes. So why is this only showing so few?
So I can, sorry, thank you, Mr. McEwen. I can go into the methodology and figure out which data they use to get these numbers. It would just take me a second.
No, I just,
yeah.
but the numbers in the report aren't accurate of what we currently have here. Because, and I can tell you just from my political life, I know how many houses are when we do a mailer, which Canada Post delivers, and also I know what our folio is in regards to that. Now, maybe it's stratas are skewing this number a little bit, but it still should be individual homes because that's what we're talking about here. Or we're talking units, correct?
This one, for instance, are you referring to, you said page 56?
56.5, the top chart, where it says 2021, there's 675 basically owners, residents, and then there's 65 of those are renters.
Yeah, I guess, and that's based on the 2021 census.
Yeah, it's not even close to being accurate. So anyway, and then I go back here to page 53.
Maybe could I just
Yeah.
provide some clarity? Mr. Joseph didn't generate these numbers. These numbers
No.
were provided for. I just want to provide.
I know, I'm just saying that the numbers that are in this report aren't accurate. I'm not saying that they were generated whatsoever, yeah. And then I go back to page 53, number 2, and you say here that we need 215 units over 5 years, is what the housing need says, for us to keep pace with Metro Vancouver. Well, that, if we're saying that each parcel of land or lot, because I don't want to get into that whole debate, is allowed 3 units, that means we only need 14 and a half homes per year added to our current inventory.
Yeah, no, thank you. In regards to housing projection, units would be the metric for new housing, not a house. So if it's a secondary suite within a house, that would count as a unit for the, yeah.
But you're saying in here it says how many more units are needed to be added.
Correct. Units could be secondary suites, coach houses,
Right.
whatever.
So I'm saying
Yeah.
you've got 215 units, correct? That's what this says, 215 units over 5 years?
Correct.
Right. So if we take 3 units in a parcel, which we can do right now, that only means 14 and a half homes per year, which doesn't make any sense for growth. So anyway, I'm not trying to put you on the spot. I'm just sort of saying that this report doesn't make a lot of sense to me. And I understand, as Councillor Richardson said regarding Metro Vancouver and the influx of population, I think the issue is as well that we aren't serviced, and that really limits some of the things right now. So anyway, thank you. Any other questions? Okay. Oh, Councillor Weber.
I have a comment. I kind of share Councillor Richardson's concerns. When things aren't binding, the government is so tight right now. They spend all this money. We do these reports. We spend the money that they give us, and it goes into the OCP, but nobody really checks. And like you said, it's not non-binding. So why do we do it? Like, everybody's trying to dictate how we're doing our growth and how we're developing, but nobody's really. We've done this report, we put it in our OCP, and whatever division that was that forced us to do that goes, okay, my job is done. But there's no follow-up, and there's no vision. I do find it frustrating. And especially when, times are so tight in government with how we spend our money.
Yeah.
Anyway, it's maybe more of a rant than a comment.
Okay. I'll call the question. All those in favor? The needs report? Opposed? Carried unanimously. Thank you. Okay, we'll move on to E, council calendar and council appointments. Report dated November 15th, 2024, from our manager of corporate services attached. Michelle.
Thank you. So pursuant to Section 127 of the Community Charter, council must make available to the public a schedule of the date, time, and location of regular council meetings at least once a year. and acting mayor appointments are made by council on an annual basis pursuant to our procedure bylaw. For 2025, adjustments have been made to the typical schedule for the month of January, taking into consideration the holiday closure. And one other adjustment was made in the month of December by having only one meeting scheduled, which leaves council the flexibility to schedule a second meeting should there be need for one. So the recommendation is that council approve the 2025 council calendar as attached to the report dated should be 15th, 2024 from the Manager of Corporate Services, and approve the following acting mayor schedule for 2025. November, December, January, Councillor Creer; February, March, April, Councillor Richardson; May, June, July, Councillor Trowbridge; August, September, October, Councillor Wevering.
Someone to move the recommendation? Moved. Seconded. Any discussion? See none. All those in favor? Opposed? Carried unanimously. Thank you, Michelle. We'll now move over to the addendum, which is new business, Pinnacle Ridge rezoning application, bylaws number 699-2024. So council is to advise staff of when they want to establish a committee of the whole meeting to fulfill the following resolution passed on September 10th. That the Anmore zoning amendment bylaw number 699-2024 be given a first reading, and that bylaw number 699-2024 be referred to APC Commission, Advisory Planning Commission, and a committee of the whole with the following items for discussion: community amenity contributions, public engagement strategy, financial sustainability, and other topics staff believe to be important to the community discussion, and that staff bring forward a community engagement plan in relation to the rezoning of Pinnacle Ridge Hillside Development. So the recommendation would be that staff be directed to schedule a committee of the whole meeting on December 2nd, Monday, December the 2nd, at 6 o'clock, 6 p.m. That's a Monday, December 2nd at 6 p.m. to discuss Pinnacle Ridge rezoning application bylaw number 699-2024. Could I get someone to move that recommendation? Moved, seconded. Any discussion? Councillor Richardson.
Nope. Just on the whole thing, have we sent it to the Advisory Planning Committee yet?
We have not yet.
We have
no.
not. Okay.
There is some schedule. They're working on some scheduling. It won't be till the new year.
Okay.
Okay. Okay. And that'll be in this room as well. So just, yeah.
When does it get sent to the other committees, like Environment Committee, Parks Committee, that sort of stuff?
Let's
what
ask
stage of the game?
Mr. Boyd.
Yeah, we've not had that resolution from council yet, but that I would expect that to come perhaps following the committee of the whole. Some of that when it comes back to council. It can be referred. I'd recommend it's referred prior to giving it second reading.
Okay, because I'm sure my Environment Committee is dying to get into this. Same with Anmore South when the time comes. So, okay, thank you.
Yeah, I was curious. Anmore South hasn't gone to the APC yet.
No, it hasn't, but that's an OCP amendment, and this is a zoning bylaw.
Okay.
So
Okay.
two different
Good.
pieces.
Okay. So it's been moved and seconded. Any other discussion? See none. All those in favor? Opposed? Carried unanimously. And I think we'll have a facilitator for that as well, which will be good. Good. Okay. We'll now move on to item number 12, items Committee of the Whole. At the October 29th, 2024 Committee of the Whole meeting, the following recommendations were moved. It was moved and seconded that the committee recommend to council that staff be directed to complete phase 2 community engagement using the IAP2 informed methodology and report back to council with the phase 3 community engagement plan. And the committee recommend to council that staff be directed to work with the applicant on phase 3 of the Anmore South Neighborhood Plan terms of reference based on the preferred land use discussion notes taken by the facilitator at the October 29th, 2024 Committee of the Whole meeting, which are attached to the minutes. That was the motion that was actually carried. Correct, Ms. Elrick?
Thank you. Yes, through the mayor, that was the recommendation that came from the Committee of the Whole.
Okay.
However, council may choose to endorse that recommendation this evening, or if council wishes, staff would like to comment on the phase 3 community engagement plan. if council would
Go
like
ahead.
to.
Sure.
So in terms of reporting back to council with the Phase 3 community engagement plan, it is set out in the terms of reference currently. So unless there's something that council wants to deviate from the terms of reference, it would be more expeditious to move through the process as identified in the terms of reference rather than have another report back to council. So I do have an alternate recommendation if that's something that council has the appetite to consider.
For expediting, or is that what you said?
Correct,
Okay,
yeah.
if you could read it out?
So the alternate recommendation would be that staff be directed to complete Phase 2 community engagement using the IAP2 informed methodology and proceed with Phase 3 community engagement as approved in the Anmore South Neighborhood Plan terms of reference. And that the committee be recommend to council that staff be directed to work with the applicant on Phase 3 of the Anmore South Neighborhood Plan terms of reference based on the preferred land use discussion notes taken by the facilitator at the October 29th, 2024 Committee of the Whole meeting, which will be attached to the minutes.
Could I get someone to move that? Moved, seconded. I'll open it up for discussion. Councillor Weber.
I just have a question about the resolution. So to complete the Phase 2 community engagement, as part of Phase 2 community engagement, what needs to be completed?
So the Phase 2 community engagement that is yet to be completed is mostly just an informed stage. We do have a mail-out sort of being developed right now, but of course, due to the Canada Post strike, we're strategizing on best way to get that out to the community. But it's not, it's more of an informed than an interactive engagement at this point. That would wrap up Phase 2.
Okay, that's what I was looking for.
Yeah.
That makes sense. Thank you.
Okay, Councillor Richardson.
Yeah, I've thought about this a lot since the meeting, and it was discussed that it would be an informed aspect of public engagement, but the terms of reference doesn't forbid public engagement. Like, we can do public engagement, and I think it's worthwhile to actually have the public engage, either in a committee whole type environment or something, on what they actually think of the Phase 2 result. It seemed just to inform them that we chose, or council chose the third option, seems a bit thin for something that so drastically affects the village. So I think it should be more than an inform. And if it takes another couple of weeks, okay, it doesn't matter.
Anybody else from council? Oh, Ms. Elrick.
Thank you, through the chair. So just to be clear, the Phase 3 engagement is not just inform, it was the Phase 2 that I was referring to. And the rationale behind the inform process of the Phase 2 is the questions that the community is asking, more clarification on, we'll probably have better answers for and more information as a result of the technical studies that will be performed on the preferred option. And then we will be going out in Phase 3 to the community at that time.
Good. Any other comments? Yeah. You know, for me, it's important that we've come, that council has not given an approval, but have a preferred plan if it were to proceed. What that now enables council and and all the technical people to do is evaluate. One of the concerns I have is about infrastructure that we'd be inheriting and making sure that the tax base would be able to offset that with taxes. Having a preferred design allows us now to do those calculations and actually see what the numbers actually will truly come back. You know, we could talk about, like I said right from the very beginning, I've never been caught up in regarding the yield, because it's all going to be based on what the cost of certain infrastructure is that the village could entail, and how that's going to play out. So I'm looking forward to this, and I'm certainly going to support this to be able to get into more of the technical end of things, because again, the financial viability is really what is going to be at my decision point. Councillor Trowbridge.
Yeah, I'm looking forward to expedite it, because most of the questions that are being asked of me and often council in the meetings are questions that are specifically referred to the information that we need Phase 3 in order to answer. And I'm not a big fan of speculative responses. I'd rather start working through. Also, correct me if I'm wrong, but our preferred option really is a very global concept. When we get into this and start getting into granularity, the preferred option will likely be number 4 or even number 5. Number 3 is just our starting point, correct?
Yeah, to follow on from Mayor McEwen spoke about, we've got to a preferred option. It does not mean that it is set in stone and we're moving forward with it. Council will get back a number of reports that will be vetted by our technical staff to provide more guidance towards council on which way they may want to proceed. So it's important to note that yes, there might be some iterations of this plan as it goes forward. And I just want to make a comment about the engagement process for phase 2. One of the main principles of engagement is when you're engaging with the public, if you're asking for comments back, it's important that they feel that those comments are integrated into the decision that's going forward. Seeing as council's already made the preferred decision on phase 3, it's important to note that you don't want to get a lot of comments back and then the public do not like it when you say, well, that's nice, but we're moving forward with this. It's important in phase 3, when we have all this information, that there is a two-way conversation that then happens, that you can hear from the public back and forth. So that's the really important context here of why the recommendation moved to just to inform on phase 2, because there will be back and forth in phase 3 to hear from the public and get more engagement that way.
Absolutely. Councillor Weber.
I totally understand the process, and I mean, we got those 3 options because of comments back from the public, and I guess we learned that townhouses were a lot more popular than when we realized. I didn't know that. And it totally makes sense to me. People have been asking for traffic study, traffic study, traffic study. Well, if we had done that, we would have studied 3,500 units, and we've already knocked 1,500 units off our preferred option. So it would have been a waste of time. It would have had to have been redone. So this makes sense to me that now we're getting into the weeds. And as to what Councillor Trowbridge said, we could be at option 4, option 5 as we move through this and get real public engagement on a dialed-in option. So I'm happy with the process, the way it's going so far.
Good. One more? Okay.
So, be brief. Yes, it's kind of decided, but for granularity or vagueness, like just one example, the word tower is mentioned in the minutes like 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 times. So I went and asked a bunch of residents what a tower is. I got anything over 3 stories, anything over 6 stories, anything over 40 stories, something made of concrete. Like, it was all over the place. So this whole design is based on 6-story mass timber structures, as far as I understand, and that's the limit. A lot of people are fine with something else. There is feedback that it's not commercial viability to have towers down there, whatever a tower is. So that I asked 4 real estate agents, could you sell towers in Anmore? And they said, well, it depends what it is, but if it was like Cascade over in Coquitlam, they could sell out. So there's a whole bunch of information here that the public hasn't had their say in on what these things are and what it looks like. And a lot of it is hearsay back from Burrard Common days. And I think there would be some benefit to engaging public. I know it's not going to go anywhere, because it's only me wanting it. But I think there's value there to actually clarify what some of these definitions are and what's actually acceptable to the people.
Councillor Cryer, sorry.
Thank you. I just want to thank staff for bringing the amended recommendation forward. It makes perfect sense. It flows better. There will be time for public to speak their mind. Just because we're not doing it in phase 2, we still will be able to have that. So I appreciate you bringing it forward. Thanks.
Good. I'll call the question. All those in favor? Opposed? Carried unanimously. Thank you. Now move on to the mayor's report. There's an important meeting here tomorrow night, the Sassamat Volunteer Fire Department. We will having the trustees, myself, Councillor Weberink, Councillor Trowbridge will be here with the 3 representatives from Belcarra. Discussions will be about the new fire halls, the new proposed fire halls for both municipalities. There'll be some designs, there'll be some costing, And then we just are going to be working on, we have to do a servicing bylaw that mirrors the letters patent before we can move forward, but that'll be a discussion here tonight or tomorrow at 7 o'clock, so please come on out. The other thing I just wanted to kind of brief council about, and I think staff is pretty aware of this. There's been a neighborhood in Anmore, Oak Court, that has been living through what I'm going to say is a really, really awkward time over the last 2 weeks, and that is the drilling and blasting that's been going on in a job site. And the owners have reached out to me. I actually had, at one point at dinner time, a lady come to my front door with tears. She works from home. It's tough. And I can tell you, being out doing leaves in my front yard, being a block away, it's loud and it's powerful. And we have never experienced this before in this municipality. So we need to expedite some form of control so we don't put another neighborhood through what this has gone through. This has been pretty bad. Whether it's limiting the blasting and drilling to 2 hours a day or 3 hours a day or something like that, something has to happen. We've never experienced this, so we don't have anything on our bylaws to be able to administer this. We have sound and I know that our bylaw person's been out, and I know that Michelle at the front desk, and I know Karen's been yielding a lot of calls on this, but I just wanted to make everybody aware of it. It was unbearable. And when people now working at home, this is a pretty tough thing to try and even live with. And that, so it's happening, yeah. So I just wanted to bring that to light, and I'm hoping that we can expedite some sort of a report back to this council to get on this as soon as possible. Ms. Elric?
Thank you. So if council could perhaps provide some clarity to staff in terms of direction of what exactly you would like to regulate under the noise bylaw. Mr. Cormier has done some research on other communities, and although I'm not saying that an example does not exist, he hasn't really found an example of regulation of this type of activity in other communities in terms of times and days. So certainly staff can report back and prepare a bylaw amendment should council wish to proceed with that. I would just ask if clarity could be provided. Is it specific that there's certain times of days for certain activity that council is interested in, just so that staff provides you back with what you're asking for?
Yeah, I did some research. West Van has they've got some pretty good things. We should definitely have a look at that before we bring something back and use it as an example. So the District of West Vancouver. Do you need a motion on that?
That staff be directed to report back to council on amendments to the noise bylaw.
Regarding drilling and blasting?
Regarding drilling and blasting, yeah.
Yeah, perfect. Can I get someone to move that? Moved, seconded. Any further discussion? See none. All those in favor? Opposed? Carried unanimously. Thank you. That's all I have. Council reports. Councillor Craig.
Thank you. Briefly, I had a meeting today about the dementia workshops that we had done in the past prior to the pandemic, and then they were abruptly shut down. So we hope to start those in the new year. We have our next CC meeting in January, and we'll make a plan there, so you can watch for that. Those were very well attended and of great interest. That's it.
Good. Any other council reports? Which one first? Councillor Richardson.
A couple weeks ago, I attended the Coquitlam RCMP Officer in Charge Award ceremony. It's the second time I've done that, so first impression is, darn, those red serge outfits are darn nice. And then the sadder note is several of the awards were related to the death of Rick O'Brien and the officers that were involved in that call. And it really strikes home what some of those people go through. So I think next time you see a cop, RCMP officer, just say thanks, because there is a price to be paid at times.
Thanks. Councillor Webber.
Yeah, I attended an interesting zero waste meeting 2 Thursdays ago, and there was public presentations from industry So it was kind of like free enterprise at its best. You had all these people that were passionate about zero waste and recycling ideas and business ideas that they had to reduce waste in our region, and they presented to our committee, and also the Technical Advisory Committee, which is made up of industry and public participants. So it was very inspiring that there's so much passion in our region for zero waste. We had a Finance Committee meeting last week, and I got to represent Anmore at the Power Squadron Remembrance Day ceremony in Belcarra, which I always really enjoy. And as Mayor McEwen said, we have a fire department meeting tomorrow, and I would encourage people to attend so you know what's going on with our 2 fire halls. And that's all I have.
Good, okay. CAO report.
Thank you. So just a reminder again to everybody that utility bills are due November 22nd. Also, we are getting into the winter season now, and snowflakes are falling. So just a reminder to everyone that when snow is in the forecast and during snow events, that we do ask folks where possible to be parking in their driveways and on their properties rather than on the streets. It just helps the navigation of our plows. And additionally, the information regarding our Light Up event this year on December 2nd, or December 8th, sorry, is now up on the website. We do have a mail drop that was printed pre-postal strike, so if that ends soon, it'll be coming to your households. If not, it's available on the website, our email notification, so please sign up if you're not signed up. And we do have the printouts at the Village Hall. So hopefully everybody can join us for that event. Thank you.
Good. Thanks. Okay, I'll now, we have some information items, draft committee minutes from the Committee of the Whole that was held on October 29th, general correspondence from the Tri-City Healthier Communities Partnership meeting, and Metro Vancouver Board and Brief held on November 1st. Now open up to public question period. Please make sure that the public is permitted to ask questions regarding an item related to village business. A 2-minute time limit applies to speakers. Anybody like to get up for public question period before the atmospheric bomb arrives? Is that what it's called? What else is it called? Or cyclone bomb, sorry.
My name's Trudy Schneider, 2318 Sunnyside Road. I would like to ask if council would approve also for the new licensed person to investigate, this is with respect to the drilling and blasting, whether we could ask these job sites to turn off the beeping, because I had a long conversation with people at, I don't know if it was workman's compensation, but I talked for about 15 minutes. Apparently these vehicles do not have to have the beeping on. So I get it if there's one vehicle moving and the people need to be aware that the vehicle's moving, but when there's 5 or 6 and there's activity going on, I think they have to be responsible and know that they're in a high traffic area, because that's also very annoying to residents around. If you've ever lived close to it, you might know that.
I'll pass that on to Ms. Elric to pass along. Thanks.
Around the time I was going to ask you, John, they actually didn't have so many, so I just let it go. But I do think in the future it might apply again, so it's worth looking into. Thanks.
Any other questions before we adjourn?
Tim Laidler Senior, 2175 East Road. My son asked 2 weeks ago for the amendment to the bylaw whereby a third of an acre would be increased, the floor area. And I understand a report was supposed to be presented at this council meeting, and it was not. When he spoke to Ms. Eldridge, he was told that she was unaware that this directive from council that you gave that she had to do it within 2 weeks. I think I was here. I heard it quite clearly from the council that you said the report would be here in 2 weeks. My question is, why wasn't it?
Ms. Ulrich?
Thank you. Just for clarity, I never spoke to Mr. Laidler, so
Well, whoever you spoke to, you did say that you didn't know that the report was supposed to be in this second week.
I'm responsible for writing the report, and to be clear, I was not given clear direction that this needed to be done within 2 weeks. I was at the council meeting. I don't recall actually hearing that it needed to be done within 2 weeks. The words that I recall were a subsequent meeting. And so if I had known that it was supposed to be done for this council meeting, my answer would have been no, because there was not time to report on it. So that's where the question came back tonight about a response to December 3rd. It will be on the December 3rd to allow staff the time and the grace to actually do a comprehensive report the council is entitled to, and it will be done correctly, so council can make that decision to decide if they want to move a bylaw forward or not.
I understand that there's a recording done of this meeting, and it was done last time it was here, and it was quite clear to me that the report should have been done by this week, and it wasn't. I asked that the council check on their recording to see whether
I think in this case, Mr. Laidler, we have a firm date now that report will be coming forth on the December 3rd regular council meeting, so it's being delayed.
So quite clearly you're telling staff to have it done by the 2nd of December, is that correct?
It'll be 3rd of December was the motion.
December, yeah.
And that was what was conveyed with Mr. Boyd. Okay? A motion was moved past, and December 3rd there'll be a report.
Great, thank you.
Thank you. We did a motion. Yeah. When, Hi.
Hi. So Leslie Hannigan, 1065 Thompson Road. So just a couple of sentences, and I do have a question. So when the council decided on the option 3, sorry, can you hear me? Doug, yeah? On option 3, which is great. Like again, as a resident, I'm really feeling shut out again. And like the reason for that is when you say public input, we've had public input in that original workshop where we made those little checkboards and stuff, and then we had a public input where we had all those sticky notes, and like I've taken pictures of a lot of those things, and I don't see in any of those options a lot of the things that were said over and over and over again in those public input things. Like when we were told that we wanted one option of less density.
I just got to get you to, there has to be a question here.
Yeah, I know.
Yeah.
But you know what? I don't know where else to talk. Because my question is, can we ever have a meeting of the residents with the council so that we can speak for more than 2 minutes without a question and being told, hurry up, where's your question? Because everything is these little workshops where everybody's spread out, and all I want is a meeting for the residents of Anmore to meet with the council so we can actually talk back and forth and communicate without feeling like everything we say or put on these boards or sticky things or in council meetings is like pointless, really, because where do we talk?
Ms. Elrick, do you want to respond?
Sure, thank you. So workshops is just one type of engagement. So there's been several different tactics that were included in phase 1, and there will be different tactics and maybe some of the same tactics again in phase 3, depending on what staff gleans from the studies that are conducted. So there certainly will be more opportunities.
That's not what I'm asking, though. I'm asking for one open meeting with the residents of Anmore and council. That's my request.
So I can kind of clarify a little bit on that subject. So Teresa Mickelson, our advisor on this, has said that we will use the tactics under IPA 2. And one of them is to ensure that it's a public engagement where everyone can talk and talk freely, and that's why we use workshops. Typically, a mass town hall where there's just people talking back and forth, it typically erupts into not a conducive conversation. So we're trying to make sure that there is good framework associated with the conversation, because we do want to hear from residents. It's important that we hear from residents and we get the feedback from residents as well. And why we post every single question that's posed to us onto
Just
the
doesn't seem
website
to be
so
making
people
any
can see.
difference because the things that are
I think you need to let
posted.
him finish. Leslie,
Yeah,
so-
and I hear your frustration. We do consider it every time that it comes to us. We make sure that council are aware of the responses. We try to roll up all of these questions and comments back to council, hence why we ended up with 3 different options onto the table that the applicant heard and made amendments to their application to try and incorporate all of the comments that they heard. And we've always got to remember this is not a council-driven application.
Yeah.
This is an applicant-driven application,
Yeah.
and it's their application. And so we have to respond to what they are looking to get done through this application, and then ultimately it is council's decision if they will proceed with it or not.
But sorry to take up the time, but isn't one of the options that you choose, you are able to do that and to put it back for other options and stuff, depending on maybe what the public is saying as well, right?
For sure, and
Yeah.
that again, that's what's really important in phase 3, that the council have provided direction to put more input and more, to be perfectly frank, detail into phase 3 and the preferred option. So we can answer a lot of the questions that we know the public are asking, such as, what about noise? What about the environment? What about traffic? We don't have those answers to answer the public, and we understand that the public are somewhat frustrated right now, but it's part of the process to get there, to ensure that we have that information for the public then to see, look at, understand, come to workshops so we can explain it to them, and then hear back from them, and then provide that response back to council.
Okay. Yeah, like I understand about the traffic and all that because we don't know, but it's just that the things that have been already done doesn't seem to have been included, the input already. So it loses credibility as you go on. Anyways, I won't
Yeah,
carry on
Ms.
because
Hannigan,
this is-
the input has all been received by all the council. We have word-by-word reports of everything that was done and all of the
Right.
different things that we've read through, like
Yeah.
pages and pages. So to think that the public's input is not being interested, that's what based our decision when we came to the committee of the whole, that we needed something to actually work on, like as Councillor Webering said about, initially it was, 5,000 units, then it went to 3,500 units, then now we're down to 1,900 units. So now we can actually do some tangible studies to see the financial impact on the village, the traffic issues, those sorts of things.
Right.
We needed to get down to something, and everybody's input's been well received. So
Yeah,
I caution you that we're still in the early parts of the process.
Yeah.
We still have to do an OCP amendment. There'll be a public hearing in this
Yeah, no,
room.
I get that.
There'll be several other meetings in
Yeah.
that. So please
Yeah.
don't get frustrated in it. It's just, like I said, we have to move it to a certain point so then we can
Yeah.
actually do the technical,
Yeah.
the real heavy lifting, which is the real technical, and we'll be sharing that all with you to see
Okay.
the financial impacts on existing
I
residents.
guess I was just when you said about now we only have 1,900, which is better than it was. We could have had other ones too. That could have been,
And
it
they
just,
may evolve.
yeah, they might, yeah. Okay, okay,
It's
just
a
feels
very
shut down.
fluid
yeah.
and an
Doesn't
evolution.
feel fluid,
So,
but okay,
yeah.
okay. just
Don't
carry
ever
on.
give me a call if you get frustrated. Don't worry. Any other public comments?
I'll try to
Or
be.
questions? Sorry, questions.
Yes, I realize. I'm Rod Rempel, 12 Maple Court, and Honorable Mayor, esteemed council, staff, appreciate all the work you do. And I think all of us realize the difficulty of this situation that we're in as far as a revision to the OCP for Anmore South. And so I have a large group of neighbors that really have a lot to say and want to have their input and feel that these opportunities that we've been given through Placemark and Icona have been difficult for us to actually have our input. But I understand it's difficult, and we know that it turns into 1,000 different issues and it becomes very negative, and I do not want to become negative. I appreciate all you've done. interestingly, the amount of growth that is expected in this this plan, of 35 homes a year, seems to sort of go with what our neighborhood would like to see, as opposed to what we're having. So I guess my question has got to go all the way down to the bottom, and that would be that with all the, we as a group want to make sure that the decision is made in a caring, considerate way for not only our residents, but also the residents of Port Moody, Coquitlam. We understand the amount of pressure that this is going to put on them, and I think they should have some input. And we're asking, are we going to have input, and are we going to work with Port Moody on this, as one question? And then the other question is, when we do go through all of these consultation or information sessions, I hate to even say the word because I know how frustrating it is to everyone on council, but I have to ask, will we be able to have a referendum of some sort at that point? Because our group is honestly prepared to go to the Lieutenant Governor to appeal to have a referendum here and to call for it. And it's not a threat. We feel that we want to have our voice heard. So my major question is, will we finally get our say when all of this information is given to us? And I don't want to do it in a negative way. We just want to know, will we finally get our say at the end of this? Is that close enough to what we're, yes.
Good, thank you. And that's what we just outlined. Everybody will have their say in regards to this development. We're just fine tuning to give you something to have a say on, is really what we're doing in this process right now. And it is a process. I will say as well, regarding the referendum, referendums are only for financing, so you can't, there's no binding referendum that will be happening here, so. Sorry,
I was
Mr.
just going to make a comment on the referendum. We've heard the residents talk about a referendum a lot over the years. The problem with a referendum, it is a defined question with a yes or no answer. And so this is way too difficult of a subject to get down to a yes or no answer. I can't even think of the question that we would get to say, should Anmore provide any more housing ever again? Yes or no? The question doesn't really mean much in that kind of context, right? So it would be a very, very hard thing to get down to, and that's why a referendum, I would say, is almost impossible to get to on a yes or no.
Yeah. Good. Any other public input public questions before we adjourn? Okay, motion to adjourn. Move. Seconded. All those in favor? Carried unanimously.